Today's podcast is brought to you by StrongHeartAcademy.com, where no heart is no victory. We are also brought to you by BJJ to go. If you want to build your game and learn Jiu-Jitsu, go to bjjtogo.com. Hi, I'm Professor Mike Barton. I'm a third-degree black belt under Kyle Terra. I own and operate and teach at Strong Heart Academy in Phoenix, Arizona at 32nd Street in Union Hills. Today I'm going to talk about being in the present with Jiu-Jitsu. So there's a lot of talk about mindfulness and being in the present and understanding the present. And it is a powerful thing. It's one of the most powerful things in Jiu-Jitsu that's least talked about and people least understand when they're joining and they're thinking about attributes. You know, I ask people to write and circle things that are important to them when they come in, like goals. You know, what are you trying to get? What's important for you to try Jiu-Jitsu? And I never hear mindfulness and being in the moment and with Jiu-Jitsu, but it's going to be one of those added benefits that when you join, you're like, oh, wow, this is powerful stuff. And just with the level of anxiety in today's society, I really feel that it helps a lot with anxiety. So anxiety is anticipating something bad is going to happen, and it's most likely not going to happen. And so it's worrying, and sometimes in modern society, sometimes we forget that we have things so good, especially in America where we have running water, electricity, food. You know, we can complain about inflation and all these political things, but in the end of the day, food is plentiful. You have water. You have hopefully have shelter. So your brain is always looking for future danger. You know, future danger. And this is part of our evolutionary process, or you could say that God gave us this, you know, whatever. But, you know, tribes looking to kill each other on the plains and looking for like animals always trying to attack us, or we were starving. You know, your brain is constantly having to think future. Okay, I'm going to need water. I'm going to need food. I'm going to need shelter. I need protection. And, you know, even though that we're in a good place right now, our brains can produce the anxiety of things because we're looking for the danger, and we're not finding danger. But your brain's like, look, we need, you know, it's just survival. You know, it's just part of being survival. So you're thinking farther ahead at things that possibly could go wrong, even if they're not likely to happen. You know, not likely. And you know, recently I've had a lot of new people come into the gym, and even kids that are struggling with anxiety. And I've been teaching kids for about 17 years, and I've never had kids actively say they had anxiety or parents come to me and they have anxiety. And I don't know if it is the pandemic. I don't know if it's just modern technology, you know, screens. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you why kids now have anxiety, or if parents have so much anxiety that they're projecting it onto their kids and their kids are picking up on it. And, because, as a father, I know that my kids are watching me, and that's how they learn, observing, monkey see, monkey do. And if you're just constantly watching Fox News and CNN, it is telling you that the world is ending any second. And if that's like on the radio and the kids are in the car and on the TV and the kids are just like, what? This is what's happening? What's going to, because they have even less security than you do. So they're looking for you for their security. And, if you seem sketched out, then they're like, oh, I should be sketched out. And I don't know if that is the case. This is just kind of a theory of mine. And then the pandemic, depending on the level of parents' concern during pandemic versus less concern, like if they were very like super, everything needs to be vaccinated, most booster, they're on the like fourth booster, they're still wearing masks, in the car by themselves, and it's not even scientific. I find that those people have a little bit more anxiety. They're still, it was a very intense time, and I understand that. So going back to jiu-jitsu forces you, when sparring, to think about the moment, because your opponent is directly in front of you. I mean, you're eye to eye. And so humans, if you look at our eyes, they're in the front, okay? And most predators have eyes in the front, okay? Prey generally have eyes on the side because they can scan things behind them. And even you see, like, deer have the ears that can turn. So they can hear different directions. Our ears are generally forward, okay? So we are forward, and we aim at targets in front of us. Even goal setting is forward target, on target. And so the distractions are peripheral, a little less. When we're doing jiu-jitsu, the aim point is in front of us. It is directly in front of us. And then you're going to physically feel the person attempt to do something, get a hold of you, hold you down, apply a submission. And if you're not focused on it, you're going to be a tap, 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 tap. All right, stuck on bottom. So it really focuses you, and without as much effort. Like, it is so like almost impossible to not focus on what is in front of you. So, when I've done meditation, I've led meditation. I have my yoga certification. One of the coolest things I did when I started doing yoga was understanding meditation. It is very hard to block out distractions. And they'll tell you, you're not really blocking out distractions. You're actually acknowledging them and then moving on. But, people give up on meditation because it is hard to sit still and block out distractions. If you're a parent, your kids are going to constantly, any parent could tell you, even using the restroom. When I was a little kid, when my kids were little, you use the restroom and they're like putting their hands on the door. Are you in there, Dad? Are you in there? What's going on, Dad? Even having time to yourself to go use the restroom, moms could tell you the same thing. It's difficult to buy that time for yourself. So when you're doing jiu-jitsu, you're showing up to class. The kids, generally are not going to be there, or hopefully they're occupied when they're there, and you're just focusing on the person in front of you. That's keeping you in the moment, and you get a full hour of thinking of nothing else. You're not thinking about your bills. You're not thinking about arguing with your spouse or your kids, and their grades aren't what you think they should be. You're not thinking about paying the mortgage. You're not thinking about inflation and all the things that the news also tells you on top of your normal things of just getting by in life. You got to think of the person in front of you. And that kind of centralized, focused, laser-focused thought, again, puts you in the moment. And so many times in my life, and especially recently in the last couple of years, I use thankfulness for mindfulness. So I just go, I'm so thankful that I can walk. I'm so thankful that I can hear and I can breathe on my own, and I have my eyesight. And I'm so thankful that my kids are healthy. And for me, that's like helpful for anxiety purposes, helpful for being in the moment. But sometimes those are hard to do. And I find Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu helps me once the class is over, and I've used a lot of endorphins that are happening from this. The cardiovasculars, my heart is pumping, and I really had to focus my mind and my body at the same time. Produces this kind of clarity afterwards, and it helps to be thankful of that. And also, when someone's trying to armbar you and they break your arm and you tapped, and it's easy to be thankful that your arm still works. And sometimes we're so, again, our anxiety is worrying about things that aren't happen or most likely aren't going to happen. Like being afraid of heights, and, I'm afraid that the elevator is going to crash. Like, how many elevators crash? We have people that elevators are serviced and they are certified that they work, so it's such a small percentage of it ever happening, but it's your brain trying to protect you, So when you're in jiu-jitsu and you understand the risks of being submitted and not saying tap, I feel that you're more in the moment and thankful and having thankfulness of like that my limbs work. I can use my limbs. And it puts me in a position that I'm more mindful too. And I'm less worried and anxious once the class is over. So even driving home, you get cut off in traffic. I'm just not as bothered by those type of things. It helps me with my mindfulness and being in the moment. But in jiu-jitsu, in the actual class, there is no option but to be in the moment. When you are wrestling and you're grappling, you are focused on that person in front of you. And just having that in your life, having a time in your life, an hour here, hour there. If you train, the more you train, the more of these hours you get. That so few of us have. And so few of us have that time to ourselves. Even when we're watching TV and we're not focused, or sports, we're not focused. We're just trying to relax. Even in sports, like a basketball game, the last 2 minutes of basketball game is stressful. It's like, okay, who's going to win this game? Now people bet. It's even more stressful if you're betting on games. But it's different. And even like if you're watching maybe a dramatic show, you're like, what's going to happen? Oh no, like, is this person going to die? Is that going to, you don't know. It's a dramatic, that's part of drama, and your brain's like anticipating. It's like giving you kind of stress and anxiety, even though it is entertainment. Or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's going to give you time to just focus on the one thing in front of you, the one task, and not all the million tasks that you might have in a day. Sometimes I list out the tasks I have in a day, and it's like, man, this list is so long. It helps me to get the things done when I write it out, but you realize how many even small things, like brushing your teeth when you wake up in the morning, all those things add up as far as time and time management, and we're constantly anticipating the next thing that has to be done, Or you have work time constraints. You're at work and you're like, by 2:30, I have to have this report done. I have to have this thing done. And every day it's that, So when we're in a jiu-jitsu class, I tell people, sometimes when I bow on the mat, we don't require bowing, but it's like, for me, it's like a switch that it's time to, like, it's jiu-jitsu time. It's not normal lifetime. And this gives me an hour to just focus on this one thing. I'm not going to focus on anything else. I'm just going to focus on learning this martial art, learning this hobby of mine. And it allows you to be in that moment. And then when the wrestling happens, generally is at the end of class, that is the most powerful part, because you're just focusing on that one individual in front of you and allowing your mind to have the mindfulness, being in the moment to moment, and not so far anticipation of what we're going to do after class, what we're going to eat, what we're going to do. I got to take the kids back how am I going to put the kids to bed? None of those things. It's so hard to think about anything else. And again, when you're trying to meditate, those things pop in your head. It takes a long time to do that. Where jiu-jitsu, from day one, the first time you get on the mat, first time you spar, there's nothing you're going to think about other than, oh my goodness, there's someone in front of me. And afterwards, the relief of it is, for me, one of the most powerful things about jiu-jitsu. And then I'll get 1 to 2 days of that relief and that fog clearing in the moment, and being thankful for the things in my life. So hopefully that helps you understand like that. And I think it's not talked about enough in jiu-jitsu. Again, coming from and knowing yoga, those two things have gone hand in hand for me. Meditation too, but understand mindfulness and just the how it's been talked about. But how to apply it is a lot harder than just talking about it. But if you join a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class, I guarantee you, day one, you'll see after that first sparring class, you can message me on this podcast too and go, hey man, I don't believe it is, or I believe it. I totally understand what you're talking about. I would like to hear your guys' thoughts on that. So anyway, thanks for your time. Peace.
Let me talk for just a second, help me feel that sense of rhythm. Find the meanings in our bearings and discover this position as a stage along the way. Another rung to the ladder, either stalling or you're climbing, and I'd rather beat the ladder. Instead of getting fatter, let the footsteps resume naturally.